I really want to talk about the power of suggestion, the impact it has on us, for good or for bad. You've probably heard the quotation, there are people that say they can, there are people that say they can't, and they're both right. That's not strictly how it was. It's a Henry Ford quotation, and there's loads of different permeations of it. But the central thing is that we're all limited by our own reality, or we create our own reality by what we choose to tell ourselves. And that's pretty obvious. And yet we don't really apply that philosophy much of the time. I've been thinking about this in relation to what I was told as a child, what I was told as a child by school, what I was told by my dad, and what I have subsequently told my child, and what I have been telling other people's children in my role as a teacher. And I've been thinking all about this kind of stuff, the impact, the importance of what we tell ourselves in terms of what you can do, what we tell other people about what they can do, and what we tell ourselves about what we can do. I've been telling myself for years, I can't leave teaching. That's been the lie that I've been telling myself. I can't leave teaching because I've been teaching for 20 years. What else will I do? I can't leave teaching because I'm too old. I'm too old to start another career. I can't leave teaching because if it fails, I'll be letting my family down. These are just fears. They're just fears. The fears that we allow to dictate, to allow ourselves to dictate our future, and stop living the life that we were born to live. So then we don't thrive. So going back to the importance of what we tell our children. When I was a kid, I didn't do particularly well at school. In primary school, I always used to get Laura tries really hard, but and I think I struggled, not massively, but enough that I didn't feel like I was ever really, well, I certainly wasn't any great academic light. And I was always disappointed whenever my mum read my reports. It was never anything bad, but I just felt this sort of like overwhelming despair of why can't I fly? Why am I not doing as well as I'm trying? Because I was very conscientious, and also I was also cripplingly shy, up until about the age of 9 or 10, in school anyway. And there was one particular time, so my brother and my sisters who were much better academically than me, or they were certainly older and quicker and cleverer, or at least they certainly seemed to be. I was younger, slower and thicker. But they would tease me about not getting things, or about being stupid, or whatever it was. They were quite brutal, the normal brother and sister kind of way. But anyway, in one particular time, when they were teasing me, and I must have felt really bad about it, but my dad announced that I had this IQ of 150. Yeah. Now, if you know anything about IQs, you'll know that that's a very high IQ. That would make me a genius, and I could join Mensa. Stephen Hawking is believed to have an IQ of 160, so it's not much less than Stephen Hawking. But obviously I don't have an IQ of 150. Well, not obviously. Why should that be obvious to you? But it's obvious to me because I've done enough tests similar to that. And I know myself well enough, so that's not the way my intelligence lies. And I also know as an adult, there's no way in the world that my dad would have ever got my IQ test. He just wouldn't have needed that kind of outside validity. But he knew the minds of children. He knew that would shut my brother and my sister up. And he also knew that it would have an impact on me. And it did. I believed him at that time. I really believed that I had this special intelligence. This special intelligence that hadn't yet been recognised, but that one day would bloom. I didn't know how, but one day it would bloom. And I had confidence in the end in the things that I was good at, which was writing. I was a great writer. I became a great writer. First of all, I was a great writer who couldn't spell. And then I became a great writer who can use, words and get spell checked. So that's all right. But I've written plays, I've written radio sketches, performed as a stand-up comedian. I had a top literary agent for a book. So I know, and also I can communicate even when I'm scared, and even when I've made mistakes, or I can ask for help. I can communicate my feelings, and I can express my ideas. Okay, there's lots and lots of other things that I can't do, but there are enough things that I can do. And I believe that the reason why I could do those things is because although I didn't necessarily have lots of recognition for academic intelligence when I was younger, I had enough confidence given to me from the people, from my mum and dad at home, enough that enabled me to go on and do A-levels or then get a degree. So the point is, had I just had those reports, or later on what you have now is assessments, and assessments telling me that I was going to struggle, that I was struggling, things may have turned out very differently. And I'm thinking about this in relation to my own child in particular, and also in relation to the criteria that we have to give children in school. So you have to give children your assessments. When they come into school in year 7, we give them CAT scores. And then we tell them, based on those results, we tell them, okay, so this was your score and this is what you're likely to get in 5 years. And that's just so wrong, because those CAT scores are just so limited. They're limited and they're prescribed with a tiny, tiny set of criteria. They may predict outcome for some things, but the human personality is so much greater than that. So anyway, this all came to head for me very recently because I was looking at my daughter's school report. Now, I know she's just done her CATs recently. She's just joined year 7. And she was worrying about her CATs. She worried about her SATs. And so did I. Because even though I know all of this, I know how important it is not to be limited by assessment or suggestion, I still get frightened of it myself. And part of that is because I've been institutionalised for so long. I've been, and schools listen to this. You can't help but have all that stuff penetrate your head. Same way as you turn on the news and you're letting a load of crap. If you're working in a school, you work in a school year in, year out, you cannot help being affected by the constant culture of assessment, testing and Ofsted. This is what our mindsets are filled with. Anyway, she had her CAT score and she came in and she was worrying about it. I said, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, Lola. It's irrelevant. Meanwhile, telling myself not to worry about it as well. Don't worry about it. You just do your best you can. You can't revise for them anyway, which is true. Anyway, when I was looking at her results on her daily school report, because they were showing up there, I just had a look at them and I said, oh God, right, they're all really average. So there's just a few are just above average and a few just below average. And I just felt that trigger. I went straight back to being 9 or 10. Lara tries really hard, and I could just feel that anxiety, and the same anxiety I had when she was learning to read. So when she was learning to read in reception, and I was doing a 70-hour week in an outstanding school, which I really wanted to work out, so I could send my children there. I was on a fixed term contract. So I was coming home with loads of work to do, and Lola was trying to learn to read, and she was struggling. She was stumbling over stuff like again and again, the same old things. And I was just, instead of just taking my time with her, being patient, I was thinking about all the marking I had to do. And I was so impatient with her. And every time she made the same mistake, again, I go, no. And I was using my tone, not consciously, but I was using my tone like a whip to punish her for getting things wrong and creating fear. And that was the worst shame that I was talking about, the worst thing that I've ever done. And I still feel that horrendous, trauma that I've given her. Going, no. And feeling her fear, her fear building up about reading because she would be with me. It was making it a misery for her. She was frightened because I was punishing her with my tone and she wasn't getting it right. So that was all about, my expectations, because I felt like she should be at this level, at this age, doing really, really well, and she wasn't. So I was going back to looking at, thinking about, but Lola can read beautifully. She's absolutely a brilliant, fluent, wonderful reader with expression. She's been picked out to be 1 out of 3 of the speakers in the whole of year 7 based on her ability to speak. So, where was the progress from reception to the next 5 years? It's just nonsense. She didn't get it as quickly as I got reading, but I didn't get, loads of, anyway, the point is there is not the benchmark should be a very, very light guide. They're not there to traumatise and create anxiety, although they normally do. Anyway, so look at the CAT scores. They're pretty average. They're very average. And even though I know my daughter is brilliant, I know that she's anything but average. She's a great speaker. She's a great comic actress. She's a fantastic swimmer. She's intuitive and emotionally intelligent. I'm panicking, thinking, what if she fails? What if she fails? What if she doesn't do well academically? What if she goes into all those lower sets because her CAT scores are average, or certainly the lower sets? And I had to remember my dad. I had to remember the message that telling me about my IQ, that lie, there wasn't really a lie. It was just a more beautiful truth. And, I did think about telling her that she's got an IQ of 150, but I don't really want to do that. But what I will do is I won't mention the CATs because they're irrelevant. And I will tell her that she's gifted and that she's talented and she can do anything she wants. And those CAT scores are irrelevant. And that's what you need to do. It's what we all need to do. You need to do that to your children, and you need to do it to yourself. You need to find the things that you're good at and keep telling yourself that you're great, you're unique, you're amazing. Because actually that is the truth. If you think about it logically, what's the chances of another you? There will never be another you. There's never has been another you. There never will be. The chance of you being alive in this particular space and time, the chance of you being you, listening to me right now, that will never happen again. We are all miracles. And this world is just too fantastic for us to possibly understand or know or be able to predict what you're going to do with your life by a tiny little pathetic criteria of data. So that's really the message that I wanted to convey today, that your belief that is what's important. What you tell yourself is what's important. Think about it very carefully before you turn on the news and hear a load of crap, or hang out with someone that fills you with self-doubt and tells you about all the things that you can't do, or points out all the limitations before you've even had anything, positive. Just surround yourself with people that tell you what you can do, and you tell yourself you can do it, or how can you do it. And that's the things to tell your children as well. So I hope that's been useful. If it has been useful, I've just done this entire video again because the last one was 20 minutes long. So I'm trying to keep it a bit shorter. But yeah, if you found this useful, please comment or like or subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.